All right, let me spend a little time talking about pronouns. All right, so I, you, he, she, it, we, you, they. Let me add you. All right, there is they. And of course, you over here is plural. Plural, so that's the difference between you. And I need to also make a distinction for you when we go into you in German. There's actually two different types of you. There is a formal and an informal. We'll talk more about that in a minute. All right, so I is ich in German. You is du or sie, depending on formal or informal. He is er. She is sie. And it is neuter, es. All right. Now, what did I just mean when I said neuter? Er is actually a masculine. Okay, if you're familiar with Spanish or French, Spanish you have el, la. It's masculine and feminine. And this is the same thing in German. And then, but German adds another complication, which is the neuter. All right. It's like a neutral form. Just think of it as a neutral form. It's not male, it's not female. We'll just call it Pat, because Pat could be a girl or a boy. We don't know for sure. We'll call it Pat. It could be Patricia or it could be Patrick. So that's kind of our Pat pronoun. I think I might have just invented something. All right, I'm starting to digress. Let's move on to we, which is wir. You, is, plural, is, well, there's ihr and sie for they. Now let's talk about how these change depending on where they are in the sentence. Because when we say I as a subject, we say I, right? But if I say you see me, I don't say you see I. Because it's further in the sentence and it becomes a direct object, instead of I say me. All right, so I went ahead and added that so we can take a look at it. So you see me. Me, in this case, is a direct object. Well, me typically is said as I in English, right? So I, me. So how does that work, right? So in English, we accept that we change I to me if somebody is referencing me in a sentence. The German's the same way. Let me show you. In German, it's du siehst mich. All right? So we just changed. All right, so du is here, right? So du, you. Siehst, all right, it comes from the verb sehen, which means to see. Mich, which is me as a direct object, or I as a direct object. So I'm going to give you the list of all of these, how they change depending on whether they're a subject or a direct object. So these are all subjects, right? These would be the subject of a sentence. So here we go. Let's go ahead and write it down. So I equals ich. It's not a very good equal sign. But as a direct object, it's mich. All right. Du equals. Oh, sorry. It's what happens after a while. You know the language, and then you start thinking in the language. So you. And this is obvious. This is informal. Du becomes dich. All right, and you formal, which is I can't remember if I did I do that? Yeah, z, which you see here, z. All right, z is you formal, and let me change this. Sorry for the technical difficulty. All right, so just continue. You, formal. So the formal way of saying you, which is Sie, in a sentence, if I were to write Du siehst, well, that doesn't work because we're already starting with you, sorry. But if I change this to ich, meaning I, sehe, ich sehe sie. All right, so that's the direct object form of you in the formal you. Let's continue with he, she, it, right? And actually, let's go ahead and put this. So we'll move this to like she and it, okay? So he, which is changes to ihn. Like I see him. Ich sehe ihn. Ich sehe ihn. She, which is sie, so she, which is sie, changes to sie. Well, that's easy. I see her. Ich sehe sie. And it, which is es, ich sehe es. I see it. And just a simple note real quick. If I say something like ich sehe die Katze. Okay, this is a cat, Katze. Ich sehe die Katze. If I were to reference the cat, I still hold on to it as a feminine, okay, because die is feminine. We're going to get into that later. But I just wanted to make a quick mention, touch on it real quick. Ich sehe sie. I see her. Ich sehe sie. Because the cat is actually a female, referenced in die. So, ich sehe sie. Now let's do the next one, which is wir, or we equals wir equals, oh, sorry. Uns. So I could say, ich sehe uns. I see us. Ich sehe uns im Spiegel. I see us in the mirror. All right? So we becomes wir, and then uns, U-N-S. I don't think that's spelled very nicely on this program. Uns. Ich sehe uns. All right? Everybody got it? Moving on to you plural, formal and informal. And that is something I did not add up here. Let me make a note. Let's go up here for a second. So I have ihr here, but I can also have the formal sie. So if I were to address a bunch of people and I didn't know them at all, ladies and gentlemen, I would use the sie to talk about them because I would be showing them respect because I don't know them. All right? But if I had a bunch of friends I was talking to, hey, let's go to the party, then I would say, yeah. I would say, I would use this yeah word. Hopefully I haven't lost anyone. All right, so let's go back to sie, and ihr. Okay. Sie is really fascinating because sie becomes, and I should have written you. Sie becomes sie. Isn't that great? So if I were saying to an audience, I see you guys, I would say, ich sehe sie. So, and then you, informal, I would say euch. So, ich sehe sie, that would be formal, and ich sehe, I see, euch. Ich sehe euch. All right, and then finally we get to the end of the direct objects. and we're going to talk about they. They, which is sie, and it becomes sie. Isn't that nice? So if I say I see them, I would say ich sehe sie. And that concludes this this video. We'll talk about indirect objects and how pronouns change in indirect objects in the next lesson.